That's one mean road, all right. You know that path your wife commented on? That road, and those Orinco trucks, the two main reasons is there.
Where does it lead?
Pet Cemetery.
Huh. Pet Cemetery.
There's that damn road.
You're listening to Scotty and Andrew, and this is Fun with Horror.
Hey everybody, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Scotty.
And welcome to episode 97 of Fun with Horror, the movie review podcast in which we give each other horror movies to watch and then we discuss them the following episode. We now only have one rule. What? Scotty, did you hear that? We have one rule. One rule.
Yeah. Why? Because it's our 2-year anniversary.
It's our 2-year anniversary.
And we decided to change things up to make it even more fun with horror.
Even more fun with horror. I like that. Yeah, we changed it up. So we only have our one rule is that we both have to watch the movie we pick. But now we can pick any movie we want, even if we have seen the movie before.
That's so exciting. As we said last week, this week, the movie is a surprise, although now everybody's probably seen I don't know, maybe they haven't. Maybe they haven't seen my promo, but they know what movie we're doing.
Right.
I picked Pet Sematary from 1989.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk about this, but I feel like I'm more excited to talk with our guest about this.
It's our third host for this show. He's been with us 2 times before, or with me, to be more exact. That is Stanley of Stanny Boy Reviews. Woo!
Yes. Oh, I like this introduction. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me back.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. I'm not.
Real.
No, we love having you on the show. And the last episode, as I've told both you and Andrew, the episode that you did with me, Stanley, Friday the 13th, part 2, is one of our top 5 downloaded episodes. So I feel like all of our fans know who you are.
Oh, yes. That makes me feel really good too. Oh, good. Well,
you are an honorary third host of Fun with Horror.
Definitely.
Well, if Andrew ever disappears, or Scotty, if you ever disappear, here I am. Yeah. I will gladly fill in for one of you on a permanent basis. I'm just saying.
Shyamalan twist. I'll be the one that disappears, and it'll be you and Andrew.
There we go. I like it.
And then Andrew will die, and it'll just be Stanley.
Yeah, right. Yep. Having fun with horror all by myself.
There you go. It was your plan the whole time. Exactly. All of a sudden, Scotty and I are going to go missing.
That's
awesome. Now there's a very special reason that we invited you onto this specific episode, and that is because Pet Sematary is your favorite horror movie of all time.
Oh yeah.
Tell us about your history with this movie, my friend.
Yes, it goes way back, man. It's the first horror movie I remember seeing. It's the one that has impacted me the most. And I watch it more often than I watch any horror film out there to this day. I watched it twice in preparation to talk about this. It's just one of those movies that I find something new about it every single time I watch it. It's like watching it for the first time every single time. It just has this weird emotional resonance every single time. It's just a deep movie for me. I don't know how to explain it. I think it's because it's something I saw when I was so young. I saw it when I was probably 3.5 years old with my stepfather.
Nice.
I've told this story so many times to so many people. I was in therapy very shortly after watching it because I suffered very terrible sleep deprivation and insomnia. It was terrible. Really bad nightmares. And now I just have a very strange, special relationship with it. So, and all the movies that followed, the sequel, the remake, and the book too. I've read the book a lot of times as well. It's just a very special film.
Awesome. And awesome. If it's okay if I make this episode a little not safe for work, if I can tell a little story, the first time I met Stanley in person, I stopped by your place and I just happened to be wearing my Pet Cemetery shirt.
This is true.
And you made me laugh so hard because after I left, I stopped by to give you a fan.
And the fan's right here. I use
It's
it
right there.
Yeah.
And after I left, you texted me to thank me and you said, "Oh my God, when I saw the shirt you were wearing, I got so wet."
Yeah, I did. It's true. I like anything Pet Cemetery related just genuinely excites me. I get
That's
really
amazing.
into it. Like even today, I watched it again, just so we could talk about it. And I like closed all the blinds. I got popcorn and a cherry Coke, and it's just so emotional and weird. It's such a personal, weird movie for me. I get weird talking about it, and I'm so excited to talk to you guys about it.
Awesome.
I am
Awesome.
too, man. Honestly, your excitement for it is why it's getting me excited for it. I love when people love movies, and I love talking with people about their passion movies, and
Yeah,
I'm
it's like
pumped.
my
I'm
Wizard
excited.
of Oz, it's like a really pivotal movie. Anyway,
You've
Totally.
made Andrew wet.
good. You did it.
First I played with Dad, then Mommy came, and I played with Mommy. We played, Daddy. We had an awful good time. Now I want to play with you.
But before we go any further, let's just give a quick warning. We are, just in case
Right.
somebody out there has not seen 1989's Pet Cemetery, we are going to spoil it.
Yes.
We're probably also going to maybe spoil a couple things about the book, even though it's an adaptation of the book and it's pretty faithful to it. We might go a little bit deeper into the book, just a tiny bit. So just be warned. But there you have it.
I say we talk about it.
Well, we have to do a 3-minute recap first.
I was wondering about that.
You think you can do a 3-minute recap, Stanley, as our guest of honor?
I mean, I think I could give it a shot.
Okay.
Just
All right.
know that if it's longer than 3 minutes, we have found a few we'll just call them zombie cats
Okay.
that are
Oh,
outside
Andrew.
your place. So
I didn't tell you.
oh, what?
I actually found a cat on the side of the road today, and I buried it in a Micmac burial ground, an
Did you?
Indian burial ground. Yes. And
Well-
it came back to life, and I drove it into Hollywood and put it outside of Stanley's apartment.
And this is the last place any of these zombie cats want to be. There's a lot of skunks here. So
Oh no.
yeah.
And coyotes.
And coyotes. So it's
Yeah.
gonna be a really rude awakening for these cats. So let's do it.
Or the coyote population will get smaller.
I don't even
Right.
think the coyotes are gonna care.
All right, Stanley, without further ado, start whenever you like. Go
Right.
for it.
I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime.
Okay, so Pet Cemetery goes like this. There is a family. There is the father, who is a doctor named Lewis. There is his wife, Rachel, and then their 2 children. There is Ellie, and then their infant son, Gage, and they have a cat, and they are relocating to Ludlow, Maine from Chicago. So Lewis can take over a doctor job at the local hospital or university or whatnot. They have moved into this big house, and along the road, there's a big road outside of their house with all these roaring trucks that go by at any given time during the day or night. And across the street, they have a nice elderly neighbor named Judd Crandall, who's in his late 80s, who has lived there all of his life, who warns them that the road is responsible for a lot of dead animals and local legends. And there's a path that leads from their backyard into what is a pet cemetery. And he tells them the story about, local legends and stuff that have accumulated throughout the years. And this happens after they get settled, ironically. And on Lewis's first day, a jogger student gets hit by a truck and comes back to life, subsequently to tell him that he is going to be visited by his spirit. And then during a nightmare one night, Lewis is visited by said spirit and goes to the pet cemetery and is warned by Victor Pascal, the spirit, that he is not to go beyond to the pet cemetery because there is evil that awaits there. Shortly thereafter, the family cat Church is ran over in the road, and Judd takes Lewis to the pet cemetery and beyond to bury the cat there. Unbeknownst to Lewis, the cat comes back to life, and that is the big secret of what is beyond the pet cemetery, that the Micmac burial ground resurrects what is buried there. And then after that, we find out that there is some terrible trauma with the wife, Rachel, and a sister that she had when she was young who died. And that has scarred her deeply, and she is very terrified of death. And then Gage, their young son, dies in the road. And we all know what happens after that. He is then buried by Lewis in the pet cemetery, or beyond rather, in the Micmac burial ground. He comes back to life, kills the neighbor, and then kills Rachel. And then Lewis has to basically fix what he has done wrong, which has, which is destroyed his family. Oh my God, I'm so nervous. Oh, that's it. That's it. I feel like I still had time, but I rushed near the end there.
Well, according to you, it has a very happy ending.
No,
Lewis fixes everything.
It's so sad and terrible. The ending is so sad and terrible, and it's awful. And I cry every single time. There's a lot more than that.
I loved it though. That was so fun.
I was like, wait, like I'm gonna Wikipedia this. Like I'm gonna cheat because I want to get this right. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm just gonna do this off the top of my head. I know this like the back of my hand. And then I was like,
you actually had it. All you had left was that Lewis kills Gage and then buries Rachel again, and she comes back.
He does, and then maybe kills him. We don't know. We just hear him scream. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but she had the scalpel or the knife or whatever, right?
There was a butcher knife. Yeah. Yeah. We'll get to that. Thanks for trusting me with that.
That was really good though. I'm not gonna lie. It sounded really good.
Well, I just
threw my cool Pet Cemetery shirt.
I made a phone call. There was a guy outside your apartments, and he put Church down again with a syringe, and or the cat. I called him Church.
It could be Church. That's
so
fine.
you're safe.
Sure.
Is basically.
All right, thank God. Cool.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Now, we've heard from Stanley. Andrew,
yeah.
How do you feel about Pet Cemetery 1989?
It's great. It's a classic. I've seen this before. This wasn't anything new for me. So I was like, I was excited to watch it again. I love the movie. It's fun.
What
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you saw it and how you felt about it and all that?
I actually don't know the first time I saw it. I do remember the Achilles scene. I remember seeing that for the first time and being like, oh my gosh, that can happen. That looks horrible.
You mean the part where Brad Pitt enters the movie as Achilles from Troy?
That's right. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah, I love that part.
Me too. It was a twist that the movie took, but I was going for it.
But yes, the Achilles tendon, and that still holds up today.
Yes. Oh, it's still horrible to watch. Yeah. Oh, but I don't remember. I don't remember the first time. Do you remember the first time you saw it?
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, so I'm going to probably repeat a story because I'm pretty sure I told this story back in our top 10 episode, because this is one of my top 10 horror movies of all time. But I read the book. It's actually maybe the first Stephen King book I remember actually reading all the way through. And I remember I read about 1/3 of the book over 5 days or so. And this one night I was reading the book, and it was about 10:00 p.m. I was going to put it down. I was like, okay, I'm going to finish this chapter. I'm going to go to bed. And I happened to look at the first line of the next chapter, and the line mentioned something about, and the next morning Church came back. And I was like, oh my God, what? And I kept reading, and I read the last 2/3 of that book in one night. I finished like 4:30 in the morning, 4:00 a.m. And I actually was creeped out, laying in my bed and wondering if some zombie cat was going to come into my bedroom and stuff. And because I was a teenager, but yeah. And then I saw the movie. I was so excited to see the movie. I remember the theater in Pensacola, Florida, where I saw it. I remember absolutely loving the movie, with one little flaw, one little quibble that I had, which we'll talk about in a second. Yeah, it immediately jumped into like one of my top favorite horror movies. I had the poster in my room, and I love that poster, by the way. It's so good.
That's
So
cool.
good.
Yeah.
Now, being honest with ourselves, Stanley, do you have any faults with this movie?
I do, actually, and I'm glad you asked. So I watched it yesterday, and then I watched it again today. And today I could not for the life of me, and yesterday I guess too, but today a lot more so, I couldn't for the life of me stand the two little girls that played Ellie. And
There were two girls?
they were twins that played the
Okay.
character of Ellie. And I think every time I've watched it, it's just it's not like terribly pleasant, but today it was pretty excruciating. But that aside, there wasn't a lot that I could find wrong with it. You know, outside of the outfits that they put Rachel in, there were some pretty awful outfits that they dressed Rachel in, and some that they repeatedly dressed her in. So I was like, man, this woman doesn't have anything to wear.
It was 1989, though.
I guess, and and his salary just wasn't cutting it because she.
What about you, Andrew? Any little quibbles that you have?
Oh, let me start. I have a list. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I have. It's not even a quibble. It's more a question because I never did read the book. Maybe the book goes into detail. I'm sure it does more.
Oh, big time.
Annie's death seemed to me really abrupt. I know she was sick, and I know she kind of talks about it, but then all of a sudden
Missy.
Missy, yeah.
Oh, Missy. I'm sorry. Did I say? I don't know why I put Annie. Anyway,
Missy Dandridge.
Yeah, it was just just felt really quick. And I don't know, like I said, maybe the book had more to it, but I don't know.
She doesn't die in the book, and she's barely a character, if at all, in the book. Like there's for some reason they replaced her in the book with or in the film rather with Judd's wife. Judd's wife, Norma, is an actual living character throughout most of the book. And Missy is a very, very small, inadequate character that doesn't have much to do in the novel. But for some reason or another, Stephen King, who also wrote the screenplay, decided to remove Norma entirely and use the Missy storyline for what reason, I don't know. And then in the remake, in the 2019 remake, they had shot some stuff with the Norma character. They brought her back, but then they left it on the cutting room floor.
But we'll be talking about that in another episode.
Yes.
But let's not get into Pet Sematary 2 or the remake too much this episode.
We're not going.
But yeah, they did want to put Norma into this movie from what I read, but it was just too much for an already packed movie. So they, I guess, adapted her into this character, Missy Dandridge. And Ellie Creed, the little girl, basically needed something to introduce her to death.
Right.
In the movie, in the story, and in the book, it was Norma. Norma dies, and Ellie is introduced to death, and she has all these questions. And then Rachel brings up her sister Zelda and her trauma with death and all that. So yeah, that was Missy's purpose. Now, here's an interesting thing, guys. I watched the new 4K remaster of this movie. When Missy hangs herself, I'm pretty sure you guys both watched the 1080p version.
Probably, yeah.
I have the 30th anniversary one. That's a really, really beautiful, crisp transfer. So I'm not sure, but go on. Say what you're going to say.
Well, maybe after Missy dies, after she hangs herself, there's a quick shot of the Micmac burial grounds. So I guess this happens after church, which is interesting. So they show the Micmac burial grounds, and in the original version of the movie, if you look in the corner, you can see Judd and Lewis standing off to the side. Yeah. But in the 4K remaster, they color corrected it and they put dark shadow over Lewis and Judd, and you can just see their shadows if you're looking for it, but otherwise you don't see it at all.
I haven't looked for it, but I knew about that in the continuity trivia on IMDb, but I didn't look for it in the correction. I'll have to check it out. That's funny.
Interesting.
Also, you mentioned Ellie being twins.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about this movie is the producers wanted twins to play Gage as well, but Mary Lambert, the director, she met Miko Hughes and said, "This is the kid," and did not want to get twins. She wanted Miko Hughes to play Gage because he was perfect. So they gambled with him, and it paid off hugely.
Yeah.
A huge payoff, because this movie would be an entirely different movie had that actor been cast differently. Had that character.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
The movie is actually it holds up pretty well, in my opinion, from 1989 to today, with the obvious exception of Gage flying out of the attic at Lewis.
I rewound it. I rewound it a couple of times because I was like, "Holy hell!" Like that. That's something. That's something.
That's a beautiful shot.
It is.
But let me tell you, Stanley and Andrew. But Stanley, you're going to understand this having read the book. I thought the book had the perfect ending. I remember when I saw this movie for the first time, I was so disappointed at how far they went with the ending, because in the book, Lewis buries Rachel. He goes to his kitchen, and the very last thing in the book is that a hand is put on his shoulder, and a voice that sounds like it had been encrusted with dirt and stuff says "darling," and that's the end of the book. And when I saw the
very quick,
it's so quick, and I was just so haunted by that when I read the book. And then I saw the movie, I'm like, oh man, like it's just such a subtle, beautiful, scary, haunting ending in the book. Why'd you have to go so far with it to like make it all bloody and gross? And
the eye.
How did you feel about that? Did you read the book first, Stanley?
No, I saw the movie because I was super young, but I did read the book later on in like middle school. And I remember even younger than that, I would like look at the book in my stepdad's bookcase and like just flip through it. So like I had basis of comparison at a super young age. But I know that was a studio decision, or I had read about that it was a studio decision for them to do a gorier ending. They had shot a couple different endings, including the one that was in the novel, but they wanted something just louder, and so that's why they went back and did something that was more special effects heavy. And so I don't think Mary Lambert especially wanted to do something like that, but it was Paramount that was like, they wanted the slasher element to it. I don't necessarily love the way that it ended because, like you said, the book is just so much more foreboding and it's ominous and it works a lot better. I've always been interested to know what it would have been like had it ended that way, because it's more eerie.
Well, I have to say, knowing that they filmed it, it would be so cool if they released that ending like for a special edition or something. That'd be awesome.
That would be cool.
Oh.
That'd be very cool. But of course, the studios ruin everything as usual, which is a great moment to take a moment and to say that we here at Fun with Horror very much support the WGA and the SAG-AFTRA guilds, unions, in their fight for fair and equal pay and everything they're asking for against the studios. So keep going, guys.
Hear, hear.
Yes.
But anyway, so let's keep going. I've got so many notes about this movie. A lot of them are just my love and just gushing all over this beautiful movie. Let's talk about the music.
That's what I was just going to bring up.
I think we're all on the same page, because that would have been my next topic as well. Eliott Goldenthal, baby.
Yes.
I have this on one of those prized possessions. It sounds so good on vinyl. It's beautiful artwork, and it's one of the best horror movie scores to exist.
I love that vinyl. I have it as well. It's the Mondo version, right?
I believe so, yes.
With the big cat eye and everything. Yeah.
Cool. It's the illustrated artwork of Lewis walking out of the house with the flames and stuff. So good.
Well, that's cool.
I remember I had that CD back in high school when I saw this movie. And I remember, I've told you this, Andrew, I remember sitting in my bedroom at my desk with my TV in front of me and the soundtrack playing, and painstakingly, how do I say this? Basically, back in the day, most movie score soundtracks, they sequenced the tracks not necessarily in the same order that they happened in the movie. So I was watching the movie, trying to place every single track and then putting it on cassette tape in the order that it happened in the movie. And I loved it. I had so much fun doing that, and I listened to that so much. So I'm so happy.
I would just try to sync it up with the scene that's playing. I would not spend the time trying to record it onto a cassette tape. So that's patience. Good for you.
Yeah, well, I was obsessed. What can I say?
Amazing.
I'm telling you, like, people who walk in my bedroom and say, how can you sleep with that poster there with Victor Pascal and his little bloody head, and then church on the bottom of it in the graveyard, the pet
I have
cemetery.
a mini version right above my bed as well. So
It's so beautiful.
I understand.
It's so beautiful. And you loved it. So, Andrew,
Yeah.
Tell me what you think of the score, because
I loved it. So one thing that it reminds me of and brought a lot of nostalgia back watching this was Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios. Because this song, the main theme, the one that plays right at the beginning, I don't know what it's called. You know it though. It's the song.
I think it's just main title.
Is it main title? Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's so haunting and beautiful and creepy. And the second it started playing, I went, I'm back at Universal. I'm having fun with everybody. I'm just in that mode. And it was a nice moment rewatching this movie. It will forever be ingrained in me as like the Halloween Horror Night song.
Aw,
you know?
I love that. And I was there with you.
Yeah, buddy.
Aw.
We love that.
Yeah. Andrew was so scared of the Walking Dead maze.
It was
great.
It's actually really good. Oh, that one was a while back.
Yeah.
It was
It was the
10
first
years
year they
ago.
had the Walking Dead maze, and
That was
I think
2013 or 14.
So, yeah, it was a while back.
Yeah.
It
was around 2013. That's right.
You guys.
And I remember we purposely like put Andrew in front, and there was like that quick little gauntlet at the end of the Walking Dead maze where all the zombies come out, and Andrew was just running, and it was great.
I booked it.
It was
I
so
don't
good.
do well in those ones when people are like touching you and coming at you, and
I don't think they were really touching people too much. They weren't allowed to.
There was one, at the end that popped right out that I missed. I didn't see, but I think JD was the one that saw it and knew exactly where to put me. Kind of showed me in the way of where they were jumping. So thanks, JD.
That's awesome.
Okay, so what do you guys think of all the actors? We talked about Ellie, the twins that played Ellie, and I kind of have a different view of her than you, Stanley.
Yeah.
Watching it this time, I was ready for the part where she's like, this, I can't remember.
That's so good.
But this time I was watching it, I was like, you know what? She does a really good job for a girl her age.
I think that I at this point, I'm just more concerned about which twin is coming on the screen. I think I've seen it so many times that I'm like, which one is it this time?
Oh,
and
man.
I'm just like, I'm getting just like this weird disdain. And maybe it's because I don't have kids and I only have dogs. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, I don't know. And I just have a weird problem with kids in horror movies in general. Like they just have to be really, really good, or it just takes me out of it. So it's super hit or miss for me. And it doesn't negate my love for the film by any means. You know what I mean? Everything else will balance out.
Of course.
You know, but and the scenes where it matters, like she's pretty on for me. But like for instance, when she falls off the tire swing, I'm like, oh my god, somebody put a sock in this girl's mouth. And then and then like later on when whatever, I'm not going to say what I was about to say because it's kind of screwed up. But you know what I mean? Like, yeah, there are better actors in the movie.
Can I ask you something, Stanley?
Hey.
Are clams really happy?
You know what I mean? Like, come on. And like, but then again, like, is it her fault or is that Stephen King's fault? Like, come on, man.
Oh, that was definitely Stephen King's fault. She did as much as she could with that beautiful line.
Yeah. And then there's me like, which one is it? Is it Blaze or is it Beau? Which one are you?
Wow, you know their names? That's amazing.
I know too much about this movie.
See, now I got to go watch it again to watch for the different twins.
Yeah. Yeah,
kinda
you
want
can
to,
tell.
too.
You can tell that. Well, one has a thinner face. Like I've overanalyzed the heck out of this.
Andrew, what did you think of
Amazing.
Dale Midkiff and Denise Crosby as Lewis and Rachel?
They're great. I mean, they're fun in this. I will say though, and this is so silly, but anytime Dale would come on screen, I think he looks so much like Chris O'Donnell. So like every time I see him, I don't know why. There's something about him. I always look at mouths. That's what I look at. I always look at smiles and
do.
mouths. So my man. So it must have been that. Oh, I love you.
Well, I can tell you back in the day, it wasn't huge. Like my big crushes, because, I'm old. My big crushes were Leah Thompson and Alyssa Milano.
Oh, I
But
love it.
there was a
Yeah.
short time where I had a little bit of a crush on Denise Crosby.
Right on.
And I remember she was on.
pretty.
Yeah, she's so pretty. Her eyes
Very
are beautiful.
Yeah.
And then I liked her on The Next Generation, Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Ah.
But yeah, so I really liked her.
Really interesting background too. Like her whole weird Hollywood background is so interesting.
Oh, tell us.
Yeah.
What do you know?
Oh no, like she's Bing Crosby's granddaughter, but she
Oh,
never met him.
What?
And there was like this big custody battle between her mother and father. Her father is the son of Bing Crosby, and her mother had sued her father for custody. And her father and grandfather were so ashamed of it that they wanted nothing to do with it. So they kind of just gave Denise to the mom and just like disowned that side of the family. And so like it was just like very wrong side of the tracks type of thing. And then she kind of like made a career for herself without really using the name or using like any of the relative type of stuff. And did Playboy super young. I think she was like 19
she
or
did?
20, did Playboy, and then did the Star Trek stuff, did a soap opera, and then somehow ended up dating someone, I think Blake Edwards' son, and then ended up being in a lot of Blake Edwards movies. And then just made like a really great career for herself. So
That's amazing.
Wow. That
I
is
never knew all
amazing.
that.
No.
yeah.
This is why we have Stanley on the show today.
That's right.
Denise Crosby expert. She was also on The Walking Dead for a brief moment. I think like season 5.
Really?
Yeah, she was in the Terminus stuff, like when they were like trying to get Terminus. Yeah, she was like the head of Terminus.
What? That's
Yeah.
wild.
I'd have to go back and look at that. I probably recognized her when I saw those episodes, but have
it
just
was
forgotten
great.
by now.
Yeah.
And we don't really even have to say a word about Fred Gwynn as Drud Crandall.
Yeah, silent applause.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, he is iconic. He made John Lithgow look bad.
Which is really hard to do.
It's
Yes.
yeah.
Which is
Yes.
real hard to do. And you know what? I didn't notice until yesterday, and it could be the version of the movie I have that is such a good, nice version. I didn't know he had a hearing aid.
Oh, he does. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he
don't
had
think
a
I even
hearing aid
caught
in
that.
1 year. I was like, I've seen this movie hundreds of times, and I had no idea he had a hearing aid. It's wild.
I didn't catch that either.
I think I noticed it in the past, but I definitely noticed it this time when I rewatched it for the podcast. I was like, oh, it's a hearing aid. Nice touch there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it makes even more sense that, well, we're going to get into this, but I was going to say it makes more sense when he falls asleep when Lewis goes to bury Gage.
Yeah.
But we're going to get to that in a second. I have a question for Andrew. This is a big question that I thought about when I watched this.
Okay.
This is the first time you've watched Pet Sematary since having a little kiddo,
I thought about this.
a son of your own.
Yeah.
Did Gage's death scene affect you any differently this time around than it did before?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Especially because like Enzo's getting close to walking. I mean, he's like kind of close to that age, sort of. And so definitely I'm grateful that we don't see it. You know, it's just kind of the quick cut / shoe. Thank goodness.
Yes.
Which helped, you know, and it was good knowing the story because I've seen this before. I know the story. So I knew it was coming. And so that definitely helped. But for sure, having a kiddo At that age, it hit differently, very much so this time.
I gotta say that I think the killer moment of that scene is Dale Midkiff as Lewis screaming, and then all of a sudden these flashes to his memories of Gage.
Yeah.
That's like that destroys you.
Yeah.
Mary Lambert did such a good job with that scene.
Yeah.
Which gets into questions, as always. There are little quibbles that I've forgotten until we start talking about it. Things that I noticed this time around that I never really fazed me before. So the question a lot of people say, and I hate to get into graphic detail about this, is an 18-wheeler hitting a little child that fast.
Yeah.
Is when Lewis buries Gage and Gage comes back, would Gage really be that well
With
put together?
One scar right here.
Yeah, a little scar. What's your answer to that, Stanley?
Well, for the movie's sake, sure. But I mean, in the novel, I mean, it's an entirely different story. In the novel, like he's there's not much left, and they kind of do what they can in putting him back together. And when he does come back, like it's a big mishmash, like mess of kind of what they were able to put back together. Because like in the book, the car hits him and the car doesn't like derail immediately. The truck rather drags him for yards, and it's very, very graphic in how they detail what exactly happens to Gage. And in the book, I mean in the movie, they do for the movie's sake what they can do. Yeah. And I watched the documentary, and they said that in the effects chair, they couldn't really control the 2-year-old that they were working with too, so they had to wait till he fell asleep in order to get some cast made of his face. But every time they got to a certain point, he would wake up, and they would have to scrap whatever they made. And so eventually they just settled with a little jagged scar down his forehead, because that's all they could come up with. And works, I guess, because that's we don't see a lot of him until the end anyway, and by that point you're invested in a different way. I think
I thought about it this time, and I said to myself, you know what, it's the spirits of the Micmac burial ground, and they not only resurrect dead things, but they put them back together a little bit.
There you go.
I like that. Because, I mean, Church is running around like on all fours, and, he probably had some broken bones from that truck hitting him.
Sure.
And, so I figure the burial grounds stitch him back together a little bit.
And then we have Rachel at the end, though.
Oh, yeah. She came back so fast. They didn't have time.
Oh, no, they did not. They did not have time. They were like,
well, thank you. Thank you for finding the hole in my theory.
I hung on for a second.
So the other question that people ask, and I'm going to ask you this, Andrew, because this does have an answer, but I want to know, not having read the book, what you think about this. A lot of people ask if Judd knows what the Pet Cemetery does to people and animals that are brought back. Why would he tell Lewis to bury Church up there and get Lewis started down the path? So do you know the answer to that?
Well, in the movie, he says something like, I just couldn't bear your daughter having a heart broken or something, but I didn't buy that. I figured there was something in the book, because I was like, that's messed up. Like, I think if I had that knowledge of essentially these creatures, humans, whatever, coming back as these horrifying versions, I would keep that to myself and I would never tell anyone about it. So even when I watched, I did have that question throughout, because he does give that answer, but I was like, that's still weird though. I don't know why he said it. And so help me out, because I don't get it.
In the book, and they do a better job, I think, of explaining this, not to talk about it too much, but I think they do a better job of kind of hinting towards this in the remake. In the book, they very much say how the spirits, the Wendigo or whatever, the spirits of the burial grounds actually exert control over humans, because they crave this stuff. They crave people burying their people and whatever there. I guess they I forget what they feed off of, but they basically, once somebody is introduced to the power, and that's what Judd says, I introduce you to the power.
Right. Oh, down there,
Judd impressions. So many. It's a damn road. Are clams really happy? Sorry.
No.
All right, I went Ellie. Wrong
You
impression. Anyway, so once Judd was introduced as a kid to the Pet Cemetery, the Pet Cemetery, or actually the Micmac burial grounds, have their hooks. The spirits have their hooks in Judd. And there is the implication that maybe they do also cause deaths that are close enough to the Pet Cemetery and the burial grounds. They cause these deaths so that people will bring their pets or their whatever, their dead things, to the Micmac burial grounds and bury them there. So that's what happens. Judd can't help. It's almost like he can't help but tell Lewis, bury your cat there. And he comes up with excuses. Yeah, it's the burial grounds. And then the burial grounds get their hooks in Lewis at that point. So now he can't help but do the same thing when Gage dies.
Right. Okay. I like that. That makes sense.
Like I said, there's hints. There's like when Judd says, I introduced you to the power. That was it. I may have caused your son's death, Lewis. That's the biggest hint this movie gives.
Right.
There's also the moment when Lewis is taking Gage. Actually, even when him and Judd are taking church and you hear noises and Judd says, well, that's just the loons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But then when Lewis is taking Gage, you hear footsteps. And that's the Wendigo.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. And I mentioned that yesterday while watching it. I was like, "Whoa, the tree fell," and I didn't hear the footsteps. And I was watching it with subtitles, and it says footsteps, and I was like,
wow,
that's totally the Wendigo." This is the 100th millionth time I've seen this, and I caught so many different things this time watching it, and that was one of them. Because the Wendigo was brought up so many times in the 2019 version, and then in this one, I don't remember it being brought up by name much, if at all. And
it was never brought up by name.
Yeah, but there's little subtle hints of it being dropped, just visually and by stuff. So, and that's one of them. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. I really, in the book, I think they even mention Lewis seeing a shape in the mists.
Yeah, with eyes that look like lanterns, like flickering.
Ooh, look at that. There you go, Stanley. So so that was cool. I do like the hints of that. Here's the things that hit me this time. Tell me if you agree, guys. First of all, I move into that house with my family and my cat. The moment I see one of those big Orinco trucks go by, that cat is permanently an indoor cat.
100%.
Also, are they the worst parents ever? Seriously. Because in this movie, Gage almost walks into the road twice when they're not watching him.
Yeah.
And the second time doesn't end so well.
Exactly. And it's so forced because like Lewis is just standing with his back to Gage going, oh, and Ellie's like, it's my turn next. And Lewis is just like, ha ha ha. But yeah, it's so brutal to watch that moment though. Oh.
Yeah. Well, see, I had the same thought, but not the cat. I mean, yes, that, but also I was like, I think you'd need to build a fence pretty soon there, guys. Like that was my initial thought was like, that's going to solve some problems.
There you go.
Yeah. It's such a big property too. I didn't realize
it's a huge property.
Rolling with that big lake in the back and like all the forest that just goes on and on and on for miles. Like that Pet Cemetery is theirs too. That's the weird part is that probably belongs to them. Like that's.
I think it does. I think in the book they even mentioned that it's on their property. Now, Stanley, you and I share the same birthday month. We both have birthdays in June.
Yeah.
And this year, you got a very special gift on your birthday that had to do with Pet Cemetery. So please tell us about it.
Well, so Zelda is the quintessential nightmare fuel that I've been dealing with my entire life. That's probably the reason that I went to therapy at such a young age. And a good friend of mine, Bill, on my birthday this year, got me a cameo from the actor who played Zelda to wish me a happy birthday. It was the last thing on earth I expected. Doing the Zelda voice.
Oh my god!
It's the most horrific but most beautiful thing I've ever received in my entire life.
I'm gonna play that cameo right now, but didn't he also say you'll never get out of bed again?
Oh yeah. So it was a full circle moment for me because I mean my parents spent a lot of money on therapy as a kid, and the fact that this is such a favorite film of mine, and now I have the actor who was the cause of such torturous dreams of mine as a kid, wishing me a happy birthday. It's a little unsettling, and it's also kind of cool.
Well, let me play that real quick right now.
I gotta hear this.
Stanley! I'm coming for you, Stanley. And this time, I'll get you. Billy and I will get you. Because we love you. Hi, Billy. It's Andy Ubachek here, Zelda from Pet Cemetery. I'm just sending you a nice greeting of love from Billy, and I hope that you never get out of bed again. Never get out of bed again! Or, when you want to. Hope you're well.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, really
that's a wonderful birthday gift.
I had cool friends.
I saw it on your birthday, and I was so ecstatic for you.
Yeah, it was again the last thing I expected, and I don't know if anything I ever get in the future is going to be as cool as this. So
yeah. Andrew,
cool.
Did Zelda scare you when you saw the movie the first time?
I don't remember. It must have, or Zelda must have scared me a little bit because I do remember the Zelda scenes pretty vividly. So it must have hit me in some way, shape, or form, because even watching it now, I was like, I remember this. This is creepy. Oh. I don't remember the first time, but it definitely had some kind of an impact because I did remember seeing it while watching it again.
Now, Stanley, do not hate me, but there's some things you just, as you said, you notice new things every time you watch it. Something I never really noticed. I had to look this up as well. The big painting in Rachel's parents' house.
That shot.
I did not know that was Zelda. That's baby Zelda.
Yeah, it is. And it's weird because it doesn't, I'm not sure how that relates or translates. I know that it is, but I don't know how that's what she turned into. You know what I mean? Like, that's the weirdest thing, is that painting is what Zelda ended. I mean, like, that's what she turned into, is that decaying monster in the back bedroom, you know?
Well, because she had spinal meningitis.
Well, yeah. I mean, I get it.
But she was a little girl in this painting with this cat before she got the spinal meningitis. But the messed up thing is that when she's in bed with spinal meningitis, she's wearing the same outfit.
Yeah.
Even more messed up is that they put Gage in the coffin in a very similar outfit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is
totally
like,
wait,
that's
did you
why
just catch that this time watching it?
I always knew that Gage looked like the painting.
Yeah.
But this is the first time I actually looked up online who the hell that painting is.
Oh.
And because I was wondering if it was like a real classic painting.
I see.
But no, I found out like somebody on, it was amazing. Somebody on Reddit was saying, "Oh, well, that's Zelda as a young child," and somebody else was like,
"Looked like a little old lady," and I was always like, "How is that Zelda?" Because it looks like a little old woman, like with a little top hat and a cat at her feet. And then I was like, "How is that Zelda?" But then I also saw that it was her as a child.
Yeah,
I was like, I guess I can see it, but she still looks old. So
Reddit being Reddit, people are like, "Oh yeah, how do you know? What's your proof?" And the guy's like, well, here, let me explain this to you. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's definitely it. Because I was wondering this time around, I was like, why is Gage dressed like that? And I realized that he's dressed similarly, and then Rachel is just seeing Gage as Zelda,
Yeah,
as her
that's
little sister
how he's come back
or
for
big sister. I don't know.
Yeah, that's how he's been manifested for her or whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's dark.
it's deep. So cool in the book how that whole scene plays out in the book. It's so weird and it's so like Twilight Zoney. And I wish they could have done how that scene transcribes in the book. Like it would have been so cool on screen. But they did really well. They did really.
Do you
well.
remember any differences that you can talk about?
In the book, as she's going down the hall in Judd's house to get to the door because she hears the moaning and stuff, as she's going down the hall is stretching. And when she finally gets to the door has somehow grown, but she's shrinking and the doorknob is at eye level. And as she reaches for the door is snatched open. And she sees Zelda, and Zelda has become like a dwarf, like she's like in a dwarf shape. And then she's like hiding in the corner, and they're basically the same size. Somehow they both shrunk. It's explained very strangely, like Alice in Wonderland.
That's what I was just gonna say. That's very Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, it's
right
very
there.
weird. And and then she comes at her, and the Stephen King describes Zelda's face as like a rattled purple, and her eyes are like flickering with an insane glee. Like he uses like the coolest adjectives. Like it's really neat, spooky. And then she realizes that it's Gage, and then everything goes back to normal around her. And it's really spooky in the book, but it's great in the film too.
My reading comprehension is so bad. I've read that book about 3 times, and I still don't remember those details that you're mentioning.
You know, I remember one part specifically about how he mentions how headstones are God's letters to the universe. And that's also something that stuck with me. I don't know why. There's that one little sentence, how Judd had described headstones as God's letters to the universe. That's all.
That'd be a cool.
And in the
tattoo.
movie, it's just he's like, it's where the dead speak.
Yeah, don't go down.
Now, here's another question I have for you guys, because this was up for debate on the internets.
Internets.com?
Yeah, internets.com. When Judd is carrying, when Lewis is carrying Gage to the Micmac burial grounds, there's the moment where he stops and he looks at the rocks in the water, and the rocks become a face coming up at him.
Yeah.
Whose face do you think that is?
I think it's Judd.
You think it's Judd. What did you think, Andrew?
I had no idea. I was like, huh?
And
What
I think
was that?
people might think that it's Pascal, but I think that it's Judd.
Strangely enough, when I looked it up, I thought it was Judd myself. And when people were even saying anybody else, I was like, you idiots, it's Judd. But
yeah,
when I watched it, because I also watched it twice this past week, when I watched it the second time, a lot of people said that it was Rachel's father. And I was like, why would he see Rachel's father, except that Rachel's father obviously had that moment in the funeral where he fights Lewis.
Right.
And I'll talk about that in a second, because that's a hilarious scene. But but yeah, the second time I watched the movie this past week, I could see where some people might think it's I forget his name, but Rachel's father.
Right.
Erwin.
Erwin, thank you. Thank you.
Stan, you're awesome, dude.
Yeah, Erwin. So
I wonder. Yeah. I'll have to give it a good little pause next time, because this whole time, for a long time, I thought it was Pascal, and then upon the last few years of watching it, I've convinced myself it was Judd, because he was the next one to die. Like, I don't know, just foreshadowing type of thing.
Well, I also felt like Judd was the one warning Lewis not to go up there. So
that too, yeah.
That was the last defense that the good spirits had of trying to stop Lewis from going, was to take the image of Judd. But it is a really weird moment. So
yeah, no, that's a really interesting scene too. Yeah, just the way that this is the effect. It's not an effect.
Yeah.
It's not an effect I agree with today. Necessarily. I do love the sound. The sound effects, the way they play out from the point that Gage is exhumed all the way until he is buried. Well, really throughout the rest of the film, it's really great. The sound design.
Oh, totally. Now, going back to that hilarious funeral scene.
Gosh, dude.
Riotous.
Riotous. That was taken from the book,
Oh,
Yeah.
which I appreciate because that was a very disturbing moment in the book.
Mm.
But the thing that just, it's a disturbing moment, but the thing that cracks me up in that scene, doesn't crack me up, but it makes me chuckle, is Porn Stash out of nowhere getting a hold of Lewis and saying, "Get a hold of yourself. It's your son's funeral." And I'm like, he didn't start it, Porn Stash.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Ron Jeremy?
That guy is supposed to he has a more significant part in the book. And I think that he does. He's a coworker of Lewis's, and he's seen at the hospital. He's seen at the hospital earlier in the scene with Pascal. And so I'm just assuming that is his name is Steve in the book, I think. And he's
Of course it is.
I've done lots of correlations. And at the end of the book, when the house is on fire, when Judd's house is on fire, and this character comes to find Lewis and see what's happened, he sees Lewis carrying the sheet through the woods, so he goes in after him. I think that's the same character.
Oh wow!
Whoa!
This is like a big conspiracy, and I could be very wrong, but I think
Steve the porn star,
Porn Stash. That's who Porn Stash is.
And then when he meets up with Lewis, is he like, "Did you order a large pizza?"
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that scene?
I'm here to fix your pipes.
Yeah.
But I don't have any money to pay you.
We don't need that.
You mentioned the one thing we haven't really talked about. Freaking Brad Greenquist as Victor Pascal.
Yeah.
Dude.
Oh,
it's somehow the face of this film.
Yes. Made it onto the main movie poster.
Or half of the face to this film.
Thank you. Oh,
there he is.
Ugh.
I mean, I love the whole thing, how he's somewhat of a guardian angel trying to help them. I don't know. I love the way Brad Greenquist played Victor.
Yeah, I do too.
Mm-hmm. Even with the slight humor at the end, like when Rachel is on the plane and then it pans over and he's sitting in the seat and he's just like,
yeah.
I think at that point of the movie, they really needed a little bit of lightness, because there was so much dark at that point that they needed something. And I think that was a really good addition, because I don't feel like any of that was necessarily in the book. And I can't remember it for some reason, but I don't feel like any of the Pascal stuff was really in the latter half of the book, was it?
Did he appear to Ellie?
I
know Ellie is why Rachel.
Yeah, but I feel like it was only in conversation. I don't feel like that. I don't think that it was handled in this kind of way.
And but someone named Pascal.
Was he saying Pascal? Oh God, the most obnoxious dialogue this poor little girl was given. I can't remember. Oh God,
I can't remember.
Going for the gold, man.
Right.
Oh man, yeah.
I will say. No, I was just gonna say I love in movies where the monster, like the ghost or whatever, is the hero or is someone trying to do good. And so I loved Pascal for that reason too, of this, he's scary and everything, but he's really not. He just is there to help. And I think that's so cool. And I love that in especially horror movies. Yeah. You're like, I should be scared, but really they're the help.
Yeah, and it's so sad. His last frame in the movie is actually such a sad scene too. When he just walks right through him and he's screaming no and just evaporates. Oh.
Yeah, and you really see the hold that the burial grounds have on people in that moment, with Lewis saying, "It'll work this time."
Yeah. Oh, it's so sad.
It happened. It happened so recently now. Blah blah blah.
This is the saddest ending.
Yeah. Stanley, do you have any other notes, Andrew?
Oh gosh, no. I mean, I could talk about this movie all night. It's ridiculous.
Well, let's do it. This is a 5-hour, 2-year anniversary episode.
I mean, I'm just excited that, I mean, I know I might be the only one, but I'm excited that there's a sequel. I'm excited that there's a remake. I'm excited that there's a prequel show coming out in October.
Oh yeah.
Excited that this is technically a franchise of sorts, I'm excited that this is something that exists, and I just wish more people have seen it. I know that a lot of people have seen it, but I have met a handful of people who have no idea what I'm talking about. I mean, I have a tattoo on my arm that literally is a VHS that says Pet Sematary in it. You might not be able to see it.
That's awesome.
There's people get confused and bewildered when I express how much I actually really love this movie, and And I don't know why, because it's just been there, my whole life. Like I said, I can talk about it until the end of time. So
Well, we'll be talking about it more, my friend,
yeah, I'm
because
looking forward.
this is the first episode in a series of episodes, which I don't know. We're going to get to them. I don't know how
Yes.
soon, but we are going to talk about Pet Sematary 2 and the remake. And I would assume, hopefully, Pet Sematary Bloodlines. And
Yeah,
we are going to have you on the show with us every single time, Stanley.
Yay!
excited. See, foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing.
I am the
Foreskinning.
third member of Fun with Horror.
Yes.
Yay!
I think let's get to 3 questions.
Who would cross the bridge of death must answer me these questions 3.
Okay, Stanley, I'll start with you. Question number 1. What did you think was the best kill or death in Pet Sematary 1989?
I would say Judd's.
Ooh.
Probably. I want to say Zelda's, but it's no. I'm gonna say Judd's, just because the way that it happens, the scalpel under the bed is just so classic. Yeah, the way it's executed is very well done, and it still holds up, even with that silly little puppet hand. It's still somehow, and it's the only one we really see on screen when it comes down to it. So
That's true. Andrew?
I actually had Judd as well. Yeah. I thought it was, like you said, I mean, it's so iconic that the Achilles will always stick with me. Always stick with me. So definitely, I'm going Judd. What about you?
Well, actually, mine has changed over the years. In the old days, it definitely would have been Judd, but watching it more recently, the death that affects me the most is Victor Pascal's, because I now just look at poor Lewis, his first day at this brand new job. He's excited. And here comes this kid that they bring in who, what happened? He ran into a tree. Yeah.
No, didn't he I thought he got hit by a car. Am I totally wrong?
Yeah, but he hit a tree.
Oh, gotcha.
The car hit him on his,
hit him, and then he got face first in the tree.
Got it.
And that's why his scalp is hanging back. And it's just so, watching it this time, the special effects on Victor Pascal are so well done.
Outstanding.
Amazing. So that's the one I think is now the best death or kill.
Okay.
That's a good one. That's
Missy
totally
Dandridge
fair.
being a close second. Just kidding.
Oh, gosh.
I've always had a problem with that one, because you can see her neck is not being held up by the rope.
Oh, it's just lame. It's
I don't
a
like
lame
that.
scene.
I don't like that.
All right. Question 2. Stanny, I'm jumping to you again, buddy.
Okay.
Was this movie scary?
Oh God, this is the most horrifying film I've ever seen. Dead serious. I know that sounds really, really silly, but I think that this is the scariest film I've ever seen, and I will stand behind that. It's so. I can't think of another word. It's literally frightening to me, and from beginning to end, it starts at a 10 for me, and it stays at a 10. And I will always say, there's nothing more scary to me than watching the demise of a family unit, and this family just falls apart from the moment they step foot out of that car, and you just watch them just wither away, and it's really just the bleakest, saddest thing. And it's told in such a fantastical, weird way, only in a way that Stephen King can tell it. And it's just beautifully tragic and scary. Yes. So,
Awesome.
yes.
That was such a great answer. Scotty?
Well, while I wish that it was as scary to me as it is to Stanley, which, by the way, I love that this movie is so scary to you. And I mean, I hate that you went through therapy and stuff because of it, but the book I thought was very scary. The movie never actually scared me. I don't think. I thought it was intense and suspenseful, and I loved it, but it never really stayed with me after I left the theater. I was fine. It was fine. It was fine. Andrew, what about you?
I feel like the first time I saw it, I'm sure, like I said, I think the Zelda stuff must have scared me because it stuck with me. Because it's still very creepy. Those scenes are horrifying, but I do think there's scary moments. I don't know especially now that I've seen it again, it doesn't affect me as much. But I think there's definitely some really creepy moments in this movie for sure.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's be honest. I do think it's a scary movie. But
Right.
personally, it didn't scare me. But yeah, I know for a fact that it's scared many people, especially Zelda. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what people take away from this movie a lot is the scalpel, Gage getting hit by a car, and then the Zelda stuff. Those are like the top three things.
Yeah.
Oof. Oh, and I actually have a question for both of you. And Andrew, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah.
Did you have fun with horror?
I did. Of course. Like I said earlier, this is a classic. You can't not have fun with Pet Sematary. I feel like anyone that has seen it and grew up with it will love it. And I feel like people that haven't seen it, like you said, I'm surprised so many people haven't seen it, but I'm glad because this is a new opportunity for them to see something that is a really great movie. So
love that. Perfect. And Scotty, I'm going to ask you as well. Did you, sir, have fun with horror?
Of course I did. It's in one of my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. I never get tired of watching it. I can watch it over and over again. Yeah, it just never gets old to me. And Stanley, we know your answer. Did you have fun with horror?
You know what? I feel weird saying yes because it's such a weird, dark, bleak movie. But yeah, I always have fun watching this. As an adult, like I find something new and fun about it every single time. So yeah, I do. I have fun with it every time.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
that is beautiful. Pet Sematary, everybody. Pet
Sematary, guys. We did it.
I think I did it because your daughter ain't ready for her favorite pet to die. Maybe with more time, she'll learn what death really is, which is where the pain stops and the good memories begin.
Has anyone ever buried a person up there?
Christ on his throne, no. Whoever would.
Okay, Andrew. We are on our final climb to episode 100. Woohoo! Even though it was a surprise choice, Pet Sematary was my pick. So, Andrew, tell us what we're watching for our next movie.
Well, now that we've changed our rules around a bit, I was going to pick one that I hadn't seen before. But I got to celebrate our new rule and pick one that I have seen before.
Okay.
But I got to pick one you haven't seen before.
Oh.
And I got to pick one from my top 10 since we just did one from your top 10.
Oh.
So, friend, we're jumping back to 1987 and we're watching Dolls.
Yes.
It is streaming on Shudder. It's on Amazon Prime. It's free on Tubi. It's everywhere, people. And make sure you watch the right one. If you're curious, because there's one from like 2019. I don't know it. But the poster is very famous or infamous of a doll holding two eyeballs. Her two eyeballs. So 87's Dolls.
Wow, this has always been on my list of movies to possibly pick.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited that you picked this one. Now I get to actually, I think I might have even mentioned that in that episode that I wasn't sure if I'd seen it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this will jog my memory as to whether I have seen it or not. But I'm super excited to watch it.
In all honesty, what got me to, like I said, I wanted to do our new rule, pick one that I've seen, but also I knew today that Stanley loved Pet Sematary, and I knew he was so excited about it and passionate about it. And it got me, I was thinking about it all day today, and I was like, I love dolls. Like, I want to do something I'm passionate about too. Like, I was excited to do it. So I'm like, I gotta keep this train going, man.
What you're saying is Dolls makes you wet. Well, you see, this is one of the like kind of exciting things about getting rid of our longtime rule that we always had to pick movies we haven't seen.
Right.
Because now one of the things I think I mentioned to you and you didn't even realize when you were all excited, because let's be honest, I texted you one day and I said, hey, what would you think if we got rid of rule number 1?
Yeah.
And you said, that's actually really exciting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like through text, you sounded reinvigorated and I loved it. And one of the things that started to hit me is that, yes, there's movies that I know you want me to see that you've seen.
Right.
And there's movies that I've wanted you to watch. And now we get to actually maybe pick these movies so that we force the other person to watch that movie.
Yeah.
We got to tie them down. Now, Stanley, you're still with us right now. Have you seen Dolls?
I have, and it is so much fun. It is such a schlocky camp fest. It's got such good special effects, and it's really, really good 80s camp. It's you're gonna have a blast.
That's amazing.
And I have to say, when I said what movie, the two of you, both of you, your faces had this big grin, and I was like, I made the right choice. Like, it was beautiful. It was so beautiful.
For a second, I thought you were going to say Dolly Dearest, which is another Denise Crosby movie. And I was like, oh, snap, we're doing 2 Denise Crosby movies. But then you said Dolls,
wow.
It's even better because Dolls it's so good. It's so good. It does have that really iconic poster with the eyeless doll. And it's good. The effects are something else, man, especially for the time.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I think that's about it. Stanley, everybody knows where they can find us on social media. Where can they find you, and what are you doing these days?
Oh, gosh. Well, right now I'm doing a little bit of nothing. I kind of have taken a break, but for the most part, I review horror films over on my YouTube channel called Stanny Boy Reviews. I am considering doing a little something else maybe in the future. I'm not going to talk about it just yet, but for the time being, feel free to go back and check out my older reviews. I might dip my feet back in the water here again eventually, but I'm just not sure yet. Right now, I'm kind of enjoying my little break from editing my face. Nice not looking at it 3 days a week. So,
awesome. Well, and everybody out there, once again, if you enjoy Fun with Horror, if you enjoy listening to us, please go on Apple Podcasts, give us a nice rating and review, or a bad one if you don't like us, whatever. Just review us. We love you.
We love you.
Thank you, guys. We love you. Stanley, Andrew, I love you, guys.
Oh, I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Love you. I love you.
We appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, as usual.
Yeah, Stanley, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
As we mentioned, not sure when, but soon, we are going to be doing our Pet Sematary series in upcoming episodes, and hopefully you'll be able to join us for all of them.
I'm so excited. I will be able to join you for all of them. I'm okay.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, take your clothes off and goodbye.
See ya.
And who might you be, little miss?
I'm Ellen Creed.
And your dad's going to be the new doctor up the college, I hear. I think you're going to be just as happy as a clam here, Ellen Creed.
Are clams really happy?